Welcome to my channel. I'm Sacha. I'm a television journalist originally from the UK, and now I'm working on the news in Australia. On today's video, I'm going to give you tips on broadcast journalism. These nuggets of information are things I've learnt along the way, and hopefully you'll find them as helpful as I have. Number 1, ask the obvious. It can be super easy, especially when you're starting out as a journalist, to nod and smile and pretend that you know what's happening. Yep, cool. Then you get back to the office and your producer asks you a question that you don't know the answer to because guess what? You didn't ask the question yourself. So yeah, ask the questions. The reality is that depending on what type of journalist you are, of course, that you could be covering up to 3 different stories a day, sometimes even more, and most of those will be on different topics, so it's really important to get your head around all of them. The main thing to remember that the job of a journalist is to get information, break it down, make it digestible for everybody else to be able to understand. So if you don't understand something yourself, then it's really difficult to be able to explain it and make it easy for other people to understand. Make sure you know the who, what, when, where and why of the situation. Don't be afraid to ask more questions, push for clarification so that you know exactly what's happening. Number 2, tell people where to look. Okay, so this is one that sometimes tricks interviewees, and I think it's just really essential when you're doing an interview in general to put people at ease. And obviously there are going to be some people that you've interviewed a multitude of times who know exactly what to do, but there are lots of people who you'll be interviewing for the first time, and for them speaking on camera maybe doesn't come naturally and they don't exactly know what to expect. So typically when you watch the news, people look at a journalist who's here and then they talk this way. So you need to tell people, tell them where to look essentially, because it's really awkward if you have a story or an entire news bulletin where people are looking like this at a journalist and then you've got one person whose eyes keep wandering. So just tell them where to look. It avoids confusion, it avoids them looking odd, and it makes the show generally look better. It will make your life easier in the long run if you just get into the habit of asking people to say and spell their name. This, of course, does not apply to people who you interview on a regular basis, perhaps politicians, doctors. Say your full name and title, the local fire crew or whatever. But otherwise, especially for somebody who's not easy to Google, because you can't then double check the spelling of their name later, it's definitely better to get people to say and spell their name no matter how simple their name sounds, because nowadays people add in weird vowels and different things like that, like Susie could be spelled S-U-Z-I-E, S-U-Z-Y. So it's really important to just clarify, and the reason that it's important is because for a lot of people, being on the news is a massive deal. They're going to tell their friends and their family about it, they're going to be, watching the news together, and then their name and title comes up on the screen and all of a sudden their name is spelled incorrectly. So it could be quite disappointing, but the job of a journalist is to try and check facts and be factually correct, so you might as well start off as you mean to go on in an interview. Naturally, during a conversation, most people acknowledge what the other person is saying by going, yeah, but when you're a broadcast journalist, that is really annoying, and it's the kind of thing that you only pick up on once you've been doing it. You'll probably pick up on it kind of early on, but just basically only visually acknowledge people by nodding or blinking, that strong eye contact, yes, I know what you're saying. Because otherwise, when you get a segment from an interview and someone's saying something really important, and then you can hear the reporter's voice over the top going, yeah, it's just really distracting. So it's really important to remember not to do that. But obviously it's just a natural thing that you do in conversation, and eventually that kind of changes and you stop doing it. I think it's probably less important for print journalists who are just using audio stuff to type things up, even though I used to find it annoying when I was a print journalist, then typing things up and just hearing myself go, I'd be like, stop saying things, Sacha. So yeah, just try not to. You can visually acknowledge someone, and then once they finish an answer, be like, oh, that's really interesting, but while they're speaking, just let that person speak, because you need a clean audio feed. It still happens to me now, right? It definitely does, but Try and always make a habit of bringing your makeup and your hairbrush with you, and some people also say to bring hairspray as well. But yeah, it's just really useful because you literally could think, okay, I'm just heading out of the office to do a quick interview down the road, which is going to take 10 minutes, and I'm going to be back in about 10 minutes time, so it'll be fine. And then all of a sudden there's like a car crash or something major has happened and you have to head out and go to that, and then you realise that you've got the best opportunity to do a piece to camera there, or to do an interview, or you might have to stay there because you get caught out and you have to do a live cross or anything like that. And you know, you're probably like all blotchy and greasy from the day, and your hair's all out over the place because it's windy and blowing a gale. But you know what? If you carry your hairbrush and your makeup with you, you are sorted. So yes, I'd highly recommend always carrying that stuff with you. And yes, I do sometimes still forget to do that, or sometimes I make the mistake of thinking I'm just popping out of the office for 10 minutes, but that will really help you. And I have to say that when I look back at the live crosses or the pieces to camera or anything that I've done camera facing where I haven't looked very good, I don't often like it, no matter how well I've done, and it's not the kind of thing that I would end up using in a show reel or anything else like that. So yeah, just bring those bits and pieces with you and look as good as you can. Now, a little caveat with the whole makeup and hairbrush thing is that do I look like this when I go to sleep? No, I do not. I am actually filming this after having done a live cross at work, which is why I have my makeup done and my hair done. And yes, there are parts of me, and I'm sure there are parts of the world and people who will watch this and think, well, why do news journalists have to wear makeup and have to do things a certain way? That's, you know, following the patriarchy and their idea of how women should look, which to some extent I agree with, but I also know that if I go to work and I do look a mess, then that's going to be a problem. And sometimes, unfortunately, some people will deem that I am less professional as a result of that. So it's a suggestion. If you don't want to wear makeup, you do you, girl or boy, or whatever gender you are. Okay, this next one is a golden nugget of information that I only learnt recently actually, and I thought this is going to be useful for other people, I'm telling you. Okay, and this is, when you go to a shoot, when you go anywhere, do you know what you should bring with you? Other than your makeup and your hairbrush and your phone and a spare charger, a USB stick. Yes, a USB stick. Recently, right, there you go, USB. How cute is that actually? Anyway, I was going to a shop which was broken into, and there had been a spate of robberies the night before. We managed to get there. We were so fortunate. We got there literally just as the police rolled up. They were still cleaning up, which was good timing for us because it meant that we managed to get the shots that we needed rather than hours later when everything had already been cleaned up. And obviously, being broken into, I've been broken into myself. It's not a nice experience, but you know, sometimes I think that going to shoots like that can receive a public outcry, and then people probably are more vigilant. So I like to think that there are positives of covering on stories like that. But anyway, I've turned up to shoots, right, and they have CCTV footage of the people breaking in, and sometimes people don't have Dropbox, their internet is rubbish, they can't WeTransfer because the files are too big, anything like that. There can be an array of reasons as to why people cannot send you things digitally. So genuinely, this has actually saved my butt recently, having a USB stick on me and just being able to say to them, do you mind just dropping onto this? I've actually got this with me. And it's just so simple when you're at a shoot, you have a USB with you, and sometimes you just need someone to send you footage there and then you know once you leave you're not going to have to chase them up, that you actually have the footage. So yeah, having a USB stick, even if it's not as cute as this one, right, it could really save your butt. This right here is where the power lies. Do not give the microphone, no, to anyone else, okay? Just kidding. No, but really. At uni, right, we are taught that the microphone gives you the power. So you have the mic, you give it to someone else, and you basically can control a conversation based on the microphone, which is kind of semi-true. Sometimes people will just talk regardless anyway. But if you're in the middle of an interview and they see you go, and what about blah 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 blah, and you ask something as eloquent as that, then you know you kind of have to get your word in edgeways. But the audio source genuinely does give kind of a bit of power, a bit of responsibility. So hold this precious thing, look after it. It's very, very important, and don't give it to anyone else. Seriously, like, the interviewee should not hold the microphone. COVID things are a bit different, so you normally have like a boom, but there you go. I know I've touched on it before, but this one, just that little tidbit of info that you might find helpful. Bring snacks and water, always have water with you. Right now I'm working on the news in Australia, so obviously it can get really hot and things like that, so I just hate being caught out and also hate single-use plastic, so I always bring my water bottle with me. And just bring snacks with you, because you genuinely just don't know how long you're going to be on the road for, and it can be quite a rigorous job. So if you've got something in the car just to boost your energy levels every now and again, even if it's fruit or whatever, then that will work wonders. Sun cream is also a good one, and now hand sanitizer, of course. Everyone should have hand sanitizer in the car, but yes, snacks and water, don't forget them.
It's extremely high.
Thanks so much for watching. I hope that you found all of this information useful. I'm sure that I would have found it extremely useful when I was starting out as a journalist. So yeah, if you liked the video, then give it a like, maybe subscribe, because I'm definitely looking at putting more things like this out there.